Hello everyone, this is Kestrel. My voice is a bit weird. It's because I finally had that massive dental work. I was out cold for most of it, so I didn't feel much pain, but my voice is going to be a bit weird for a while, but it's very quickly getting better. Anyway, I've got a new American Kestrel picture. It's one of my favorite birds, probably my favorite bird, unless you count the raptor dinosaurs, which I go absolutely gaga for. But that's beside the point. I am right now speaking to you from a temporary apartment. I was staying with my dad for a couple days. My father helped me find some very good people to do the work I needed to have done, and I had spent almost the past whole year arranging it. Next week, he and I are going to each give short presentations at the Geological Society Christmas gathering. Christmas is about 2 weeks away. One approach I have found in the past, didn't really get around to doing it this year, although I have a couple stuff that I have found for buying Christmas presents that will make it not such a hassle at the end. At the end is to spread it out throughout the year. If I come across a gift that I think would be really good for a friend or family member, I buy it, keep it for the months leading up to Christmas, wrap it, and give it then. And sometimes I've gotten things 8-10 months in advance. Didn't really get around to doing it this year, but I don't have that many ideas this year anyway. Plus my family's been through a lot. But where I am, the days seem to be always alternating from very dark all day long to very bright for the daylight hours about every 2 or 3 days, and then back again. And even the wind chill varies so much day to day that it sometimes will feel like an early spring, only for a day or two later for the weather to say, yeah, not yet. Wishful thinking. Still cold. Still the middle of winter. I'll either be back to work at the end of the week. My voice is weird. At the end of, probably early next week. This week's probably over. I'm getting restless. And I'm getting pretty irritated at the socio-political, economic situation going on all over the world, aren't you? That's what I thought. I've been keeping up somewhat with recent developments in the world. Wish I could take a break, but really can't since things are unraveling so fast. One thing I've learned about is the past 4 weeks of Yellow Vest riots in France. Now, Stéphane Molyneux has a very good presentation on it that he uploaded just a day or two ago. You really should watch it. I'll put a link below. He has a great deal of detail. France is pretty much on fire as we speak. There have been 2,000 or more arrests, and counting lately. People have been rioting with these yellow vests, yellow jackets, on, I guess, to distinguish them from people who are not part of their cause or are not rioting. I don't quite get the vest, but that's not the point. Emmanuel Macron, which I remember in early 2017, before the vote took place, to elect either Marine Le Pen or Emmanuel Macron, a lot of the Western countries were warning France not to go with Macron. I myself made a video. I titled it The Fate of France. Uploaded on May 5th, 2017. It's still on my channel. Though my background is really yellow and my recording equipment kind of sucked. Still sort of does, but I'll upgrade it if I can save the money to do so. That is, if the entire economy doesn't fall to pieces. Though it probably will, because we'll be getting, in America, a leftist House of Representatives. Thanks a lot, you idiot voters who did not do your research on who you were putting in power. I think we've still got a slight Republican majority in the Senate. I have my irritations with the Republican Party as well. I'll get to those. But one thing they at least do is kind of free up the free up the job market, free up the the market and the economy, even though they still suck at spending. Why does everyone suck at spending? The Western countries have a very real interest in who gets elected in which countries, particularly right now, because our future really is on the precipice. All of ours. I studied ecology and environmental science in high school and college because it was a passion of mine. And seeing politicians, this relates to Macron, most politicians, probably all of them, know absolutely nothing about climatology and the complexity of the planet's physics. And so them making any environmental agendas, let alone trying to execute them, is embarrassing. It really is. I recently got my hands on the 2018 IPCC report. I was recovering for a couple days, have not read it through yet, but even though there's Arctic ice melting, the Antarctic ice sheet is actually growing. The stuff is extremely complicated, so Macron really should not be talking about global warming when still no one has it right. All right, there are vast intricacies and complexities going on at the chemical balances. It's just, they should not be making any policy right now. But Macron is trying. He thought he could raise gas taxes so high that most people wouldn't be able to drive their cars. And what happened? The people began rioting because, among other things, they felt they were being economically shafted. This was 100% predictable and 100% Macron's fault. You cannot ignore your people and get away with it. Plus, all of Europe is sick and tired of continuous flow of third world migrants, their cities being overrun, acid attacks going through the roof, and then this insane United Nations compact for constant migration being drawn up behind their back. Most people only knew about it because independent YouTubers and alternative media, people who are whistleblowing on the mainstream medias in their countries, not saying a damn thing about it. Ironic that I'm using the name whistleblowers, but this time it is them who alerted the public to something truly sinister going on behind their back. So we at least had a few weeks to act. And I think a lot of countries have pulled out of it now, but don't think they won't try again. I really don't like how my channel has become so inundated with politics these days, as I have lamented before. But seeing as how pretty much the entire goddamn world is at a crisis point, I feel I have very little choice. This morning, I woke up to watch a little bit of YouTube Star Wars videos and videos just for fun, and I was immediately interrupted in my search by a commercial of leftists intent on impeaching President Trump. This is another thing I am extremely sick and tired of. This rampant hatred of President Trump from the media ever since he won the 2016 election. It's been from before day one. For the entire year of 2017, I had to listen to their futile attempt to charge the Trump campaign of colluding with the Russians for his victory. Yet all of the surveillance on Trump, all of the wiretapping, all of that, on him, his office, his administration were applied for on the basis of a document called the Steele Dossier that was made up of unverifiable rumors and paid to be put together by Hillary Clinton. Come on, people. And this was revealed in, I think, earlier this year. Much earlier, like in the spring. Now, after a revelation like that, do you really think I'm going to take any Russia collusion story seriously? Added to that, Hillary Clinton, had she become president, was all for an all-out war with Russia, and Putin was even willing to go to war had Hillary won. They both said this outright. It was a terrifying situation, and I remember, I'm sure I've mentioned this before in my videos, I remember the day after the 2016 American election was decided, there were people all over the world commenting on the internet how relieved they were that American voters had not brought about a leader who was going to go to war with Russia. It was a huge breath of relief, let out by the whole world. And then when the mainstream media just would not stop this Trump-Russia collusion, sabotage story, Russians were all the time getting sick and tired of being implicated in sabotage, and I don't blame them one bit. Of course they'd be sick of it. Americans were sick of it as well. And CNN's making up of the collusion story was verified to have been bullshit by James O'Keefe's Project Veritas. And they went in and actually interviewed people from CNN. You know, you're supposed to, oh, of course it's bullshit, they said, but it gets them ratings. CNN and mainstream media networks still kept running this extremely dangerous story because it got them ratings. These are not betrayals we can be forgetting, people. Stop giving the leftists any credibility whatsoever. Not only are we trying to avert another worldwide war, we're also desperately trying to avoid gigantic scale invasion. So in America, Trump said he would have the government shut down if the Democrats did not grant him a budget that includes a southern border wall. Trump put his foot down about that, and he was absolutely right, and he looked strong. Now, he also said he'd take the blame for the shutdown, which may have been unnecessary to say that, but let's admit what we all know. They blame him for it anyway, so he beat the Democrats to sticking it on him. He said, I'll take it, but I'm shutting this all down if you don't give me a budget with a defense budget for Build the Wall, which is compared to, it's like $5 billion to build the wall compared to what the government spends. Usually it's nothing, and I know I've donated some money to try to help build the wall as well. Not much, because I can't spare much, because the entire economy is collapsing, but the government apparently has all of our tax money to spend. May as well use it for something constructive. I don't know exactly how this will play out. Just like many of you, I am very pissed off at the Republicans for not having done this when they had a majority. They literally had 2 years, the majority of 2017 and 2018, to do this. Why did the Republican-dominated Congress not build the wall and cut government spending as we put them in power to do when they had the chance? Well, what it might have been that my dad and I talked about this morning was then, okay, so once a politician gets into office, their life and their job starts revolving around securing their position and getting reelected rather than keeping their promises. They will say what it takes them to say to get in office. Then it becomes about securing their place in office. We see this happen all the time. It does make some sense. You even see politicians doing this in our fiction stories. Watch the Star Wars TCW, the Clone Wars episodes that focus on the senators and getting senatorial votes. And it's all about them keeping power rather than doing what they were put in office to do, apart from a couple of them, and that might be true. But, so, we know that politics, that it turns into this for politicians. We know this, but in this case, over the past 2 years, the Republicans' security really did depend on fulfilling those two main promises. Secure the border, cut government spending. And their opponents, the Democrats, who have gone very far left in the same span of time, are all the more intent on opening the borders first chance they get and ramping up spending to a scale we'd never seen before. Just look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's ideas. As if spending wasn't already out of control. And the Republicans really needed to pay attention to this. This is how they lost so many seats this time around, because they did not pay attention to this. I sure hope Trump is not going to blow it in a big way this next year. He really needs to realize that his support base is very shaky right now, and while I think he's still a much better person to be the president than any of the leftist candidates right now, particularly because of how radical they are, that doesn't mean he can't be displaced. He and the Republican Party need to get smarter about how they stand up to the left and how they campaign pretty damn quickly. There's also news that New Jersey passed a law banning firearms capable of holding 10, I think it's more than 10, rounds of ammunition early this week on Tuesday. I lived in New Jersey as a little kid, and I thought New Jerseyans were smarter than this. Banning firearms that can carry more than 10 rounds of ammunition. Those sound, at first, like pretty seriously sized guns, quite a bit larger than most people would really need for home defense. So what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that. It's not the problem. It's not the. Let me rephrase. It's not the size of the gun that's the problem. That's not the point. The point is it's a step taken towards population disarmament. A few years ago, actually very recently, even with the Florida shooting earlier this year, the town names on the tip of my tongue. Sorry, but I shouldn't be forgetting things like this, but I have to talk a lot and my mouth's getting tired. But you remember all those times it was to ban assault rifles. Now it's magazine size. You see what's going on between the technicalities? They keep picking one here or there. Assault rifles, no. Size of the gun, no. Type of gun. No. It's not the point. The point is, it's progressive steps towards the left's goal of a completely disarmed population. They have no end point. And once the population is disarmed, step by step, there will be no reason for them to hesitate to control every single aspect of your life at the point of their guns. Now, they claim to be anti-gun, but the guns will be in the hands of their army, because they have no problem leaving their law enforcement soldiers lots of guns to command you to do whatever they want with. So if you want to keep any remnant of freedom, there really needs to be stronger resistance against any kind of civilian disarmament. It is too dangerous to let them keep taking these steps right now. I mean, do I really have to explain the right to bear arms in America again? It's a right that was established in the writing of the United States Constitution not only for home defense against, say, robbery or an assailant here or there, or a gang war going on in your neighborhood. It was also to arm the American people against if and when the state grows increasingly invasive into their lives and towards totalitarian, as it is stepping towards. So, we have a gigantic political and economic war against the leftists, the socialists, the communists, the feminists, and the Islamists to wage this century. I ask you all to stand firm and hold on. It's not going to be the intellectual and freedom paradise that we thought we had been promised.